Welcome back, everyone. Next, we have Nova Minerals Limited, trades on the NASDAQ under the symbol NVA and on the ASX under the symbol NVA. It's a gold and critical minerals exploration and development company focused on advancing the Estelle Gold Project and more. Please welcome its CEO and Executive Director, Christopher Gerteisen. Nice to see you, Chris.
Yeah, good to see you again, Anna. That's great. We'll get straight into it. A very exciting time for the company. Just listed on the NASDAQ a couple months ago, ticker code NVA. What we have is the Estelle Project, where we're developing North America's next major gold and more recently critical minerals district here in Alaska. We've been focused on the gold. We're a gold company. That story is strong and getting stronger. However, we've made very significant discoveries now of some of these other critical elements that are so highly sought after. And antimony is the big one there, drawing a lot of interest. At a glance, large project, 200 square miles here in Alaska. To date, we've defined globally across the property almost 10 million ounces. Now, economic resources inside the $2,000 gold price pit shell is 5.2 million ounces. That's across two deposits, Corbell bulk tonnage system up north, and then down south, which really become the jewel in the crown, very high-grade deposit at RPM. And the company's laser focused on bringing that RPM into production and then growing ourselves into the larger project. In addition to that, 20 other known prospects at various stages of advancement. And one to point out there is Stibium. That's where we've made one of these very significant antimony discoveries. And we'll go into a bit more detail of that as we move forward. In Alaska, Tintina Gold Province is one of the most prolific belts in recent decades. And you can see our neighborhood, some names you might recognize: Newmont, Kinross, Barrick with their Donlin Gold Project, a lot of the majors operating in the area. 10 million plus ounce deposits, not uncommon here in our neighborhood, and that's certainly what we're on to at Estelle. So let's zoom in here, south central Alaska, and we're looking east towards Anchorage. We're 100 miles to the west of Anchorage and here in south central. First thing to note, all on state of Alaska land, no federal land, no native corporation land to contend with. That means it's a much more streamlined permitting process when you're all on state land. Infrastructure, lots of options with access. Got a 4,000 foot plus airstrip on the site to support the project year round. The pink line is our winter road, very common in this part of the world. The red line is the West Susitna Access Road project. That's a state project, whole economic corridor through there. We're just one of many beneficiaries, and the state's looking to break ground on that next year. Power, lots of options there as well. Blue line, gas, the yellow line, a transmission line we're looking at going back to the gas power plant. Micro nuclear reactors, big push for that in the state of Alaska. Also coal, not averse to coal. Alaska, 70% of our power does come from coal. And then there's diesel generators, which will probably be the option how most mines do it. And we'll do that to start, and then we'll grow into some of these other power options. So all state land, very, very important note to make there. Zooming in on the project, 35-kilometer long mineralized intrusive corridor here coming through the claims. We've been focused on four main areas, RPM and Corbell, of course, where we have our resources defined, and then our main exploration areas for future upside is that Stony Train. Lots of prospects we're working on there. There's some outerlying prospects, particularly in terms of the antimony that you can see there. But those have been the four main areas we've been working on. So ultimately, the project is a larger project. We did a scoping study, a bit dated now. We've come a long way since there. Just looking at the whole hog, 20-year mine life. A current gold price is well over $1 billion NPV on that. And it's just the price tag. The capex on that was approaching $400 million. So that's a bit challenging maybe for us right now. We do have the option, which we're going after now, to look at the lowest capex option to get started. And that's what we're doing, focused on the RPM project. At that project, very low capex, high margin material of a very high grade deposit right on the surface. And then the intention is to grow ourselves into the larger project by expanding RPM and stepping out and starting to develop Corbell up north and some of these other regional deposits that we're advancing as well. So that's the gold story, and we are a gold company. Don't want to dilute that, but with these other discoveries that we've made, particularly of antimony at several prospects, the opportunity has presented itself with antimony at record high prices, and there's no U.S. production of antimony. and we're totally beholden to China and Russia, and China has recently cut us off of all antimony, and so there's great urgencies to bring this production back to the United States, and we have it there at Stibium Prospect. We're currently pursuing DoD grant funding. That's the DPA Title III grant funding. We're well advanced with that, and we're feeling very positive about that to develop the antimony here and bring that production back to the United States. Very lucrative opportunity for the company as well. And that would be a standalone operation aside from our gold projects, all dependent on DoD grants, of course. So let's take a closer look at RPM. To date, we've defined 3 main zones there. You see the black dots, all those have the potential to merge. And we're focused with our startup here at where that yellow outline is around RPM North. That's really what we're looking to start off, very high-grade deposit there. Here's the drilling we've completed to date, and you can see most of the drilling has been focused around RPM North here, where we intend to start the mine, and then we keep chipping away at the south and the valley zones, all presenting future upside. So here at RPM North, that's our starter pit, high grade, right on the surface. We finished a round of drilling this year, and here's the results we got right on the surface. This is to be the initial material that we start mining for a quick payback, and very high grade, good material. 39 meters at 5.4, including 20 meters at 10.2, 29 meters at 7.1 grams per ton, including 22 meters at 9.4 grams per ton. So that's that first material we'll be getting into, and then we'll continue at depth. And what's waiting for us there is from the previous drilling, you can see it just continues. Here, let's read one off at RPM 005, 400 meters at 3.5 grams per ton, including 132 meters at over 10 grams per ton at depth. So that high grade will just continue on and on over several years for very, very high margin material. And that's why you can see why we're so focused on that, to get going here and grow ourselves out of that cash flow. RPM Valley, future upside, typical intercept there, 204 meters at a gram, including 42 at 2.6, 17 meters at 5.3. It's very typical of the valley. And then RPM South, our most recent discovery here. Still working on that, early days, but we're on to it. RPM 023, 333 meters at 0.9 grams per ton, including 94 meters at a gram. So that's definitely pay dirt. We can make money at that, but still quite a bit of infill work to do there. So now cross-section looking north through RPM North Zone and the Valley Zone. And you can see I have the 1 gram per ton cutoff grade shell on here. And this zone still at that high cutoff hangs together. Very nice, thick, broad, continuous zone. That's the zone, that's the deposit we're looking at for the startup. Right there, that pod right there. And then we've drilled down into the valley now, and you can see we're just starting to drill it, but another high-grade zone starting to take shape there as well, all for future upside. Putting on the 0.3 gram per ton grade shell, really bulks out now, much more aligned to a mining cutoff. You can see some rocks on the right-hand side. It's those light-colored rocks. That's what we're after. That's the mineralized, intrusive, intense veining, visible gold and that stuff. And then the dark-colored rocks on the bottom, that's hornfels, tends to be barren. So it's a very visual deposit. We know we're in the right stuff when we're drilling, which makes it very nice. Avoid, too much waste drilling. We generate these pit shells for economic resources for the SK 1300 NASDAQ compliance. And you can see, we report resources there in pit resources, but outside the pit, there's still plenty of resource to capture here and off to the side here, all outside the pit. So we continue to infill drill those areas. And as well, this is a $2,000 pit shell. With a rising gold price sitting today at $2,700, these pits will just get larger and deeper, and we'll be able to capture more and more of those resources as economic as we move forward here in our next iteration, which we're actually working on now. Most of the in-pit resources there at RPM North are high confidence measured and indicated resources. And just to note, this model you see here was our model at the beginning of 2023. All this drilling here has not been included in the resource yet. So that's what we're working on now with the next resource update, to include that for a resource upgrade. And we're trying to get that out before the end of the year. The remainder of the deposit remains inferred, so still some work to do there to infill and prove up those resources. And also as we move forward, these zones all remain wide open. And our geological data indicates, and we map the mineralized intrusive connecting RPM South and Valley here. So big upside volume there, over 600 meters of strike length. And then between the Valley and the North Zone, that's still wide open as well. So that's all future upside. Currently, this deposit's like 1.1 million ounces in total. And we see this easily as a 2-3 million ounce deposit. Just got to get in there and start drilling and prove that up. So that's our startup scenario there at RPM North. We have a plant site picked out, very small plant site, small footprint, scalable. So as we grow, we can scale it up, and very small capex is the main thing there for that startup operation. Then grow ourselves into the larger project through our own cash flow and or take on a strategic partner. You know, we've talked to a lot of the majors, mid-tiers. Not many projects like this left in the world. They require this. The kind of project they would really ramp things up where you can be producing hundreds of thousands of ounces every year. And this is the kind of things these guys like as well. So just a short distance north of RPM, 5 kilometers to the north, one of our exploration areas here at Train, another one of these massive intrusive related gold systems lighting up, where we have high grade gold here at the Train prospect, up to 80 grams per ton. And it continues 20s, 30s. 1 kilometer to the north of that is the Trumpet prospect, where we have high grade gold up to 132 grams per ton. And here we're starting to recognize the multi-element potential, hundreds of grams per ton silver, percents of copper, antimony, many of these other critical elements. Here on the east side, the Shoeshine prospect. Look at this one, 1,290 grams per ton. Shows you the extreme high grade potential here at Estelle. Again, multi-element on this prospect as well, silver, copper, antimony. And then on the north side of the Train area is the Muddy Creek prospect. This one tends to be gold only, with rock chips up to 128.5 grams per ton. On average, the rock chips over that 1 kilometer strike length of that Muddy Creek prospect are running 18 grams per ton. Even the soil samples, which generally just tend to be an indicator to indicate an anomaly for a target, they're running ore grades at 2.5 grams per ton. So all those prospects I just pointed out in the Train area are all our future upside. The major companies love that. And that's they're all drill ready and ready to get in there and start defining resources to join RPM, as well as Corbel up north here, which we'll go to now. So here at Corbel, same story, lots of things we're working on. Let's focus in on those black dots. That's where we have our resources defined. Here at Corbel, Maine, bulk tonnage system, 2.5 kilometer strike length, massive deposit. It's not just one of these little narrow vein thing. It's a sea of mineralization right on the surface, and a very low strip ratio here. So almost everything you dig up in this deposit is some kind of pay dirt, and very low strip. You know, very little waste you have to extract. Almost everything is pay dirt there. And then 500 meters, a new discovery at Cathedral. And I'm just getting started there, but at a minimum, we see another Corbel, Maine taking shape at Cathedral. So here's a long section through Corbel, Maine, looking east. 800 million tons at an average grade of 0.3 grams per ton. So bulk tonnage, lower grade system. Now there is a higher grade feeder core running through here. And what I mean by that, if you look at some of these intercepts, 94 meters at a gram, 101 meters at 1.3, including 30 meters at 2.4, 113 meters at a gram. That's very indicative of the high grade feeder core. Here, when I put the 0.5 gram per ton grade shell, that encompasses that core, very continuous down along the center line strike of the deposit. And with the 0.3 gram per ton grade shell, it really bulks out. Like I said, 800 million tons. And so what do we intend to do with this? Of course, we'll start at RPM and then grow ourselves into Corbel. And at the start, I mentioned that high grade feeder core, starter pit right here on the surface. Get into that higher grade material, direct mill feed, and then the lower grade portions of the deposit. To understand, there's these sheeted veins through there. When you selectively sample the veins, they're running ounces per ton. It's just in the lower grade portions of the deposit, the vein density is less, right? And so our plan is to take the lowest grade portions of the deposit, send that off to the heap leach, very low cost recovery method, and then we'll classify a medium grade material and we'll utilize ore sorting. And so ore sorting has shown to work exceptionally well, XRT density ore sorting to be specific. We're seeing a 10-time upgrade. Our test work looked at 0.4, 0.5 gram material, and we were upgrading that up to 4 to 5 grams per ton very easily. So it just works exceptionally well. Most of the in-pit resources here at Korbel are already high confidence indicated resources, working on this years before we even discovered RPM. And then there's plenty of inferred for upside around Korbel Main. And then, of course, Cathedral as well still remains inferred. So we continue to step out and infill those areas as well. Here's some surface sampling, rock chips in the Korbel area. And you can see at these grades, 114 grams per ton, 98 grams per ton. That's what we're separating out with the ore sorters. And you can see at those grades how we readily achieve that 10-time upgrade using that ore sorting technology. So it just works really well. More on the process. Let's have a closer look. We've done quite a bit of metallurgical test work, and we've developed our flow sheet. And we're finding that it's particulate gold, very easily liberated. Nothing fancy going on here. Conventional off-the-shelf technology. We crush, we mill, we float to produce a concentrate. Then we regrind down to 22 microns, get really good gold liberation at that grain size. We leach, and we're already seeing over 95% recovery. That was in scoping level test work. Now we're working on a feasibility study, and we're honing in, finding efficiencies, doing that next level of test work, and these numbers are only set to improve. So that's all looking very positive. To recap all the processing, we'll start at RPM down south now, of course. That'll be going straight to the mill. We'll grow ourselves into the RPM, into the Korbel deposit up north here, and we'll get into that starter pit straight to the mill. Lowest grade portions of the deposits will go off to the heap leach pad. And then for the medium grade, we'll utilize these ore sorters. Bring in these ore sorters, focus on maximizing the grade out of the ore sorters. The accepted portion out of the ore sorters running 4 to 6 grams per ton off to the mill. And then the reject portion, which still has some gold in it, will be off to the heap leach pad. So very efficient resource extraction, maximizing the total gold recovery over the life of mine. All that straight to the bottom line, of course. So that's the process. Now I'll take you to another exploration area. No shortage of those, just south of Korbel, the Stony area. Lots of regional prospects we're working on there. High-grade gold at numerous prospects, but again, multi-element. We're seeing thousands of grams per ton silver, up to 12% copper, antimony, many of these other critical elements here as well. And so we just keep advancing these. No shortage of. There's a pipeline of additional prospects here. We just keep advancing as we move forward to continue the mine life going for decades and decades here at Estelle. So that's the plan. Just to wrap it up for the gold. Now I want to hone in on the antimony opportunity. So one of the discoveries we've made of antimony is at the Stibium prospect. We made it at several prospects, and what we see there on the surface is massive stibnite veining, and that is the primary ore mineral for antimony. You see the photo here. That's a piece of stibnite. We found gold there, so there's gold in this stuff as well. Very good gold, actually. And you might say the antimony found us. And here at Stibium, what we're seeing there is grades up to 60% antimony. Our recent news release, just released yesterday, here you can see more of this antimony, very high-grade, massive stibnite that we've reported there, 40s, 50s%. And this has drawn a lot of interest from the Department of Defense to establish and bring supply chains back to the U.S. And they see us, I think, playing a major role in that. And we're pursuing that grant funding. And we believe that that will be forthcoming. You don't know until the cash is in the bank, of course. But to play that role for national security, as well as providing significant byproduct credits to the project to start producing antimony and gold out of this prospect. And the plan there, working with the DoD, is not just to mine it, but also at their urging to refine it here in the U.S. Bring back antimony refining to the United States with a state-of-the-art processing facility to produce all these antimony products, oxide, metal, antimony compounds for semiconductors, and put it here in Alaska as a hub, because there's other antimony opportunities. It creates an incentive for other mines and upcoming mines and historical waste dumps to extract the antimony and produce a feedstock for this antimony refinery. And we're looking for Nova Minerals to be at the center of that, to not only supply the DoD, but also the U.S. industrial base, and bring antimony back to the U.S. And as I said, there's gold in these deposits as well. So we'll be getting gold credits out of that as we establish these refineries. So that's the project. You can see we'll be out here for decades and decades, multiple mining centers producing multiple commodities. I mentioned some of the critical elements. along the way. And what I mean by that is here's some of them where we have highly elevated concentrations at some of these prospects. We're talking about bismuth, gallium, and indium. Those are big for semiconductors. Gallium antimonide, indium antimony. Those are those substrates, like these high-tech substrates for the semiconductor. Lanthanum, starting to see some of the light rare earths there. Taking a closer look at that. Scandium, stealth technology, F-35 jets, all that require that tungsten to harden steel for tanks and warships. And the thing is here, if you look at this chart, we produce zero to negligible amounts of all this stuff. And also, perhaps more importantly, or more urgency, there's no reserves. So even if we wanted to, nobody's been looking for this stuff for decades. We have no reserves. And so we really are behind on this. And this is another aspect of our project that in the longer term for the DoD grant funding to start bringing this production back to the United States. And the Estelle project sits at the center of that. So here's the flow sheet. We talked about most of this on the gold side. We've already spent the time, money, energy to process for the gold. And then what we're talking about is on the back end, off our flotation circuit to produce critical minerals concentrates. After we leach the gold out, you have that waste stream that usually just goes off to a tailings facility. We divert that and send that off to critical minerals extraction plants. This is how the Chinese do it. We tend to just focus on the primary commodity here in the United States, but we're bringing this back to the U.S., and that's what we're working on with the Department of Defense for the grant funding for the development studies and CapEx required to put in these refineries and critical minerals extraction plants for national security. But like I said, also that bonus of added byproduct credits for the overall adding value to the overall economics of our project. So there you go. We're in the right place at the right time with the right commodities, both gold and antimony at record high prices and rising fast, and both moving into bull markets, we believe. You see an antimony spot price here. That's ex-China, ex-Rotterdam in the West. These prices are already up to $38,000 a ton, I'm seeing. And so great opportunity for the company. We got both of them, and we're pursuing both as we move forward, gold and antimony with those DoD grants. Here's our timeline. We're currently working on that feasibility study for RPM, and we're hoping to deliver something to the market by the end of 2025. Here, in addition to that, there's a lot of metallurgical and technical studies happening in the background, all converging on that feasibility study, and then we'll submit for permitting. And so that process being on state land, we expect about 12 months there to be best case scenario, be producing at RPM about 24 months after that, around 2027 here. And so, and then grow ourselves into the larger deposit. And by 2028, we should be into full production by expanding RPM and getting into Corbel as well. And then, of course, highlighting the antimony opportunity, which is dependent on these DoD grants that we're pursuing. And that's a very lucrative opportunity. I mean, at that Stibium prospect, we think we have 10,000 tons of antimony there. And so if that's the case, at these current high prices of over $26,000 a ton, you can see, if you do the numbers there's quite a substantial amount of revenue to be generated for the company in a very short period of time. This is really the opportunity for the investors, peer comparison, similar projects with these companies, North American assets listed on the North American Exchange. And you can see that the valuation discrepancy here on the bottom. Our direct neighbor there is running 2-3 times our market cap. And, that's a project that's been dormant for 10 years. And so they're just starting on it now. And some of these companies running 10, 12 times or over our current market cap. And the point here is they're not even, many of them, even close to being as advanced as we are. No resources reported, no technical studies commenced, whereas we're working on a feasibility study. We got production in our sites, cash flow on the horizon. And so it's really an opportunity for a re-rate and an opportunity for the investor. Here's our team. We think we got all bases covered. Deep bench here to propel us forward and meet our objectives. I'm an economic geologist, been doing this business for 30 years, taking resource stage projects, bringing them into production, and long list of those, mining expertise, metallurgical, all these aspects of these projects. Hans Hoffman, our exploration manager of the Secret Weapon, has been working this area and for over 20 years. And so he's really the one pushing these things forward on the ground. Quick corporate snapshot. You can see what we believe is very, very undervalued still, 42 million. Our resources in the ground are being valued at $8 per ounce. Just as a benchmark, the low end of our peer group is $50 per ounce, and some of these companies running over $100 per ounce of ounces valued in the ground of similar companies. So very undervalued in that from that respect as well. You can see that since we've listed on the NASDAQ and we're getting our story out, we're starting to get some love here. Here's our NASDAQ chart, and it's definitely moving in the right direction as we get our story out. Historically on the ASX, you can see our chart here. Our company, we weren't even close. We've come a long way since then, but a couple of years ago, we were pushing up to almost 300 million Australian dollars on the almost 400 million Australian dollars on the ASX, and it's just been brutal in the gold market since that time. But we've come a long way and advanced the project and de-risked it in a long way. You can see on the bottom graph here, this is the gold price here on the bottom straight. This is the gold price on the top, moving up. Gold equities, the Van Eck Junior Gold Miner Index, still straight line. There's a big gap there just for the industry sector in the whole to catch up. So opportunity for re-rates there. We have about 5 million in cash and equivalents. That's 3 million in cash, and the remainder is the equivalents is mainly our holding in Snow Lake Resources, a lithium uranium company that we spun off. Our team built that company, spun it off on the NASDAQ, and have tapped into it before to fund ourselves up to this stage. About 5 million in debt, and that's held by Nabari Gold Fund, our main institutional holder, who has a sizable equity piece as well. And so they really got involved. They do bridge finance, construction finance, and they're ready to step up with that and get involved further once we complete this feasibility study. Directors and management hold almost 10% of the company. We've always participated in capital raisings along the way, so lots of skin in the game. Close associates control almost 30% of the company, so quite tightly held there. And then just to sum it up, some value drivers. Alaska, geopolitical sovereign risk, so much more of a consideration these days with these projects being in Alaska and being on state land in Alaska. Can't say that enough. No federal land, no native title land, so much more streamlined permitting. We're an aspiring gold producer. We're not here to flip the project. That's not one of our core strategies. We're project builders, and of course, we would take on a strategic partnership at some stage. A strategic partnership with the majors come in because they would really ramp things up and that would benefit all of us. Myself, I'm from Alaska. Like I said, I've been doing this for 30 years. Back home now, come full circle in the trenches, working this project day and night, pushing it forward. Low discovery cost per ounce. Anything less than $10 in this business is amazing. And so we're doing it at about $5 per ounce. And that's because at this stage, we're just going after the low-hanging fruit, and there's plenty of it right on the surface. Doesn't require deep searching, complicated, expensive exploration techniques just yet. All that's there. We're going after the open pit, low strip, thick, high-grade zones on the surface. We demonstrated that for sure at RPM. And there is underground potential, upside resource potential, and that's all remain for the future as we move forward. All those deposits are wide open, and we have that pipeline of prospects that I showed you that are there for upside potential as well. And then the multi-element potential. Like I said, the gold story is strong, getting stronger, but with these other elements we've discovered now in significant quantities, particularly the antimony that's drawing so much interest, that's going to add serious value to the project as well as we move forward. And so there it is. Look, all that content, much, much more on our website. Urge you to go there, dig a bit deeper. I think you'll find we're on something special here, and put us on your radar, follow us. So I'll leave it there and open it up for questions.
All right, Chris, great job. We have so many questions for you, but we are almost out of time. Let's see if we can get one in. Talk a little bit, recap about where Nova currently stands with regard to any support from the Department of Defense.
Very well advanced with that. So I've been working on that for a year. Once they recognized our project, the potential here. And so the way that's come forward, for about a year, we've been working on it. Like I said, when we first approached, we were looking for grant funding for just mining it. And their point was, what are you going to do? Just mine it, concentrate it, and do what? Send it to China? And so they said, no, we want your proposal. We need a company to pick up the ball and run with it. We want mining and refining in the United States. So we want your proposal to have a refinery. That's something we want to fund. We'll get behind that. So we were working on that. Once China cut us off of all exports, that happened in September. And more recently, again, they've strengthened those export bans. The Department of Defense, they basically, we discussed it, and they said there's extra urgency here. What we need specifically as a phase one is the antimony trisulfide, the stuff that's used in all the munitions. And so we have a phase one of the project, which we've proposed for just to create the antimony trisulfide, which is a straightforward task. It's digging up the stibnite ore, which is antimony trisulfide, and just concentrating it and pulverizing it. And so we're doing that as a phase one. And then phase two, the larger antimony refinery. Very well advanced on that. I believe we'll have a decision on that in very short order.
Perfect. Well, I'm going to send you the rest of these questions you can answer on your own. Do you have any closing remarks for our viewers today?
Watch the news flow, in particular to antimony, DOD grants, and gold results. All results are still coming in from our programs this year. And keep us on your radar. Follow us.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And we'll see you in the new year.
Thanks, Anna. See you next time.
All right. All right, everyone. We'll be right back.